Oh, Soul, there's new music that dropped last night. You know you want to review it.
I'm on hiatus. I don't care.
You know you want to review this music as by a particular artist that you might have heard of.
Who is it?
It's The WEEKND.
Is it a new album?
Well, it's kind of. It's there's like 6 tracks. Some people said it's an EP. Some people said it's an album. Personally, I think it's an EP, but it's one of those.
But I don't want to review it.
But don't you think you should? You should do it for the views. The views, Soul. The views.
Okay.
So, your boy, The WEEKND, the star boy, the XO boy, the king of the fall, has released a new album, EP, I don't know what the fuck it is, but he's released a new project in the beginning of spring. The king of spring. It has a bell to it, but I don't think that sounds as good as king of the fall. So if you guys are not familiar with me or this channel, my name is Soul and I make videos about and review a lot of things such as music. For instance, I have turned shitting on, parodying, and commenting about The WEEKND's music. I've turned that into a non-profitable hobby at this point. Is that a plane? It's a fucking plane. Really, I come back from fucking hiatus and there's just a fucking plane soaring over my head trying to ruin my videos. I've even reviewed every single piece of content that The WEEKND has put out.
Do it for the views.
So when I heard that The WEEKND dropped a new project and I was able to do it all over again, I was like, fuck hiatus, here we are. And right off the bat, I can tell you we're gonna have a fun time reviewing this thing because just looking at the cover art and the title of this thing, I am already laughing. Here we have the most emo pic of The WEEKND I've ever seen, and that is attached to the most sad boy title ever, which is My Dear Melancholy. That is the most tragic thing I've ever read, and at the end of the title there's a fucking comma. Why is there a fucking comma? What is that even doing there? You don't end sentences with commas. So I'm reviewing this the day after this project dropped, so there isn't a lot of information about it yet. So I don't really know why that comma is in the title. The best reasonable comment I read was, oh, well this project is like the before project before he drops his eventual album or whatever else. It's like a sign of things to come. Right? So, you know how a comma is usually followed up by the end of the sentence. This is the project before the actual project. And that would make sense because whether it be the subject matter or the style or the way this thing is created, everything points to this project just being like a quick side project for The WEEKND. Which, speaking about the subject matter, let's get the elephant out of the room here. The narrative, the nature of this project, EP, whatever it is, the whole point of it is a breakup project. It is about The WEEKND being butthurt about a relationship gone wrong, And he is now being a sad boy singing about the woman who broke his heart. And the savage, vicious woman who dare break the heart of The Weeknd, who dare defile the Starboy's legacy, was none other than motherfucking Selena Gomez. That's right, fucking Selena Gomez, the star of Wizards Waverly Place, the cinematic masterpiece Spring Breakers, average pop star when she's not doing that shit, and also the little girl who was in Spy Kids 3. Yeah, that's Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez, totally in control of me? Yes. I'm head over heels in love with her. Okay? She came along in my life right when I needed her most. She's a very loving and caring woman.
And this isn't just like a couple of lyrics alluding to maybe that he was dumped. This isn't just like him sadly throwing a bar here or there about this. No, this is like a meme. This, like, if someone were to make a meme about being butthurt and sad about the fact that they were dumped, this would be that meme. This project is a meme. So we're just gonna look at some of the lyrics to this project. Okay, so what makes a grown man want to cry? What makes him want to take his life? So he's suicidal about being dumped. Because Selena Gomez dumped him, The Weeknd wants to kill himself. I said I didn't feel nothing, baby, but I lied. I almost cut a piece of myself for your life. Guess I was another pit stop till you made up your mind. Oh, I got pace on that one. That was savage. Savage. By the way, we're still talking about motherfucking Selena Gomez, the person who went savage on the most savage, don't give a fuck about women person on the planet. That's Selena Gomez. And I didn't mention this before, but some of the lyrics on this project are just cringe. Just cringe, nothing else. This one right here is a prime example of that. Now I know that right now we're not talking. I hope that you know this dick is still an option. What? And this next one's even worse. Okay. When you're with him, you close your eyes and think of me. He's talking about fucking Justin Bieber. This is awful. Just call me up again. I'll make you weak. Girl, I'll come put myself between your lips, but not between your heart. You'll see. That was a blowjob reference. Yeah, that's just awful. And it's more funny for me because I've been fighting this idea that The Weeknd's music has narrative and has a story to it. And a large part of that story is that he's using so many drugs and putting himself in so many empty relationships that he's miserable at the end of the day. And now that has culminated in this. Part of the narrative with Starboy and Beauty Behind the Madness was that he was entering potential relationships that could prosper. And at the end of Beauty Behind the Madness, we had the track Angel, which was him letting a good girl go because he himself was too flawed for that person. At the end of Starboy, he was at the end of another relationship, but he still loved that person even though they were separated. It was kind of an emotional, like, way to end the project. And now we just have sad boy Weeknd being like, fuck you, Selena, fuck you. And if you listen to Starboy, there was talk around that album that the last couple tracks, specifically the one called Die For You, which was like him professing his love for this relationship that had ended. And a lot of those songs weren't actually supposed to be on the album. He just kind of made them towards the end of the album's life creation cycle, and then he just threw it on there just to, you know, beef it up, or just because he was passionate about those songs. I don't know. And this entire project feels like that. It feels like The Weeknd just got really emotional about something and he locked himself away with a couple of producers, and then when they walked out, this is what they had in their hands. Which, speaking of producers, I didn't even mention what this thing sounds like or how it is musically. So, I know a lot of people who heard, you know, the darker tones to this thing and saw that the cover art looked more like a Polaroid photo, much how like the first 3 mixtapes that The Weeknd made. Those were like Polaroid photos, and this one kind of looks like that. So some people immediately were like, oh shit, he's going back to that. He's going back to that trilogy sound. He's going back to that House of Balloons. And all I can say about that comparison to this and those projects is that is a complete false alarm. The Weeknd has always kind of just changed his music with every single project. And more specifically with this one, you know, he's been working with a lot of guys like Daft Punk, this guy called Gesaffelstein, and he's been working with a lot of these guys, so it's clear that he has his ear to like the techno world because he's working with a lot of guys cut from that cloth. This isn't like the trappy or pop flavored Weeknd. This isn't like the trap sounds that were on Starboy. These aren't like the pop sounds that were on Beauty Behind the Madness. This isn't like the alternative R&B that were his roots. This is a much more techno, much more sonically produced sound, and it is accompanied with like long stretches of shimmering reverb. There is distorted techno noise all over this thing. There is even like a minute-long sequence on the song Hurt You, which is just a lot of techno noise mixed with The Weeknd doing this kind of like like and I do think that that is an interesting choice. I do think The Weeknd flows really well on these tracks. He's done a lot of tracks like this before featuring on other people's work. I just don't think personally this is a development that I really care for. The alternative R&B, you know, the trap bullshit, the pop sounds, I loved all of that. Like, all of my favorite projects were like Starboy, Beauty Behind the Madness. My favorite projects were those sounds. So seeing that change I don't really care for. And narratively, I don't really care about The Weeknd being butthurt about getting dumped. And the lines on here about him still being like the sex god and still trying to have sex with this person who broke up with him, it just feels weird, and the swagger behind it is just weak and doesn't really fit. So I don't know what to do with that. I do think that this thing has some cool parts about it. I think the intros for every single song are all interesting. For instance, the opener on Wasted Times has this like little it's this little melancholy like this little sad boy sound effect. It is great. I really like those moments. Call Out My Name is another highlight on this thing. It is a very climactic song with The Weeknd just kind of really doing one of those big boomy voice things that he does once in a while. I think that was an interesting choice. I think there's not really a bad track on here. There's just not a lot of like greatness here. For some people, I think relationships and when the status of those relationships change, it is some of the most emotional points you will be in your life. I think that goes for any person. And some people make music during those points. And some people make great music during those points. I don't think The Weeknd is one of those people. I think he just lashed out emotionally. And we have My Dear Melancholy, which is a pretty good side piece. I'm more excited for The Weeknd's album whenever that drops, but until then, this is a nice thing to pass the time. And it's score time. I'm giving My Dear Melancholy, comma, a 6 out of 10. So guys, if I could borrow your attention real quick, I have a lot of projects that I am currently working on and a lot of other things that I do on the reg. If you would like to check those out, I have a morning podcast show that releases a new video every single day. You can follow the links for that on my channel and down below. I have a series called YouTube on the Rise where I promote other people's content. I have a channel called Soul Music where I promote other people's music. I do a lot of things, and you can follow that all down below, including my social medias. Everything that I do, you can find it in there. And while you're down there, please hit up the comments section. Let me know what you thought of the review. I don't dislike this project. Don't make assumptions just because I was picking on it. I love The Weeknd's music. He was one of my favorite, if not my favorite, music content creator at this point in time. And obviously, since I've made a bunch of fucking reviews about his music, that is the case. So anyway, thank you for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. And until then, with that, I leave you.